If I spoke prose, you'd all find out I don't know what I talk about.
Hello, lovelies. I did just record a whole thing replying to a whole bunch of comments. But for whatever reason, it didn't actually record. So I just wasted a whole bunch of my morning. I don't know that I have the energy to go back and do it again. So let's just keep this one to the basics, shall we? So some housekeeping. Thank you for all the sympathy and nice messages about my burnout and depression. It feels like I go on about that too often, but I think it's important to be open about it. So that's why I do it. It's not to elicit sympathy. It is a warning that I become an unreliable, uncommunicative bastard, basically, and find it hard to do stuff for a while. So, yeah, that's what it's about. It's keeping you informed and being someone who is publicly a sufferer. Because I know that helps people, knowing that other people out there have issues. So, yeah, it's not to elicit sympathy or donations or whatever the fuck else. It's just to keep people informed. I would, however, like to apologise to Rachel Haywire and to T-Shirt Historian for being an unreliable bastard due to my recent issues. Usually I can push through and get things done, especially if it's for other people, but I zoned on doing a podcast thing with Rachel, and I fell asleep twice during the day and missed Dungeons and Discussions, though there were other issues happening as well, such as a power cut and my mum needing some help. So, yeah, there's other things going on, but it's just the depression makes my head fuzzy, makes me forgetful and unreliable. But I apologise anyway, because I should be able to compensate for that. I've been making progress on the freelancing that I've been doing for people. Some of that should be coming to an end soon, but I think I'm just going to have to tighten my belt, because I'm finding the pressure of working for other people, again, difficult. I'm finding it difficult to produce work of a quality that I'm satisfied with, but I recognise that that's the depression talking again, but it's hard to unpick. So, yeah. I was heartened to see so much engagement and joy in the Crown Royal video. Are there other things people can think of that have that same kind of iconic gamer status as the Crown Royal bags that I could do some more videos on? Because it was nice to see something positive, reminiscence and so on there. I really enjoyed that. Maybe the relationship between weed and gaming, call it high fantasy or something, I don't know. Also, thank you for the Roll for Insight questions and so on. Please keep them coming in, because then I can make a bunch of Roll for Insight videos and keep the channel ticking over while I take a bit of a break and recharge, because they're easy to do. How would you feel about a Vtuber Grim talking about things that would make my life easier a little bit? The video editing software that I use, Wondershare Filmora, now has a sort of face rigging option as part of the main software, which I would recommend people to use, actually, Filmora. So I can make an anime avatar of myself or whatever. So how would you feel about that? Would that be acceptable? And should I make it me, or should I make a character that I play? And also, if anyone has any links to free or cheap resources for Vroid that are searchable in English rather than Japanese, that would be very useful. I have a marathon unboxing of Necromolds coming next week, and that will be followed by a review. Quick PSA, I do not delete comments, usually. I delete comments if they're spam, if they're links to outright hate sites, and if someone is being abusive with no quality content alongside it, and is so repeatedly, or is just ranting away and comment after comment after comment. Otherwise, I do not delete comments. YouTube deletes comments. YouTube sometimes deletes my comments on my own channel. Right? It's largely unpredictable, but if you avoid certain keywords and key phrases, and if you don't drop links, it's less likely to happen. But the comment system is trash, and that is not my fault, and I am not victimizing you or erasing people who disagree with me or whatever. The same shit happens to me. Don't forget, it's Fallout this Sunday, so come watch us over on Grim Streams and subscribe to the bloody channel. I want to get it over 1,000. So going through the comments, and given that I already did a bunch of these, is there anything I want to talk about? On the Grey Seas review, many people bigged up William Hope Hodgson and said nice things about his work. Yeah, it's worth checking out. Personally, I love the Karnaki stories, but the seagoing stories are very popular as well, and it deserves more recognition. Banjo6 said he finds these micro games usually pointless and would rather just use a standard sort of game. I understand that feeling, but I tend to find that generic games aren't particularly good at any single thing. And I believe system matters, and that the best games occur where system and setting work in concert to encourage and produce the kind of games, the kind of play style that you're aiming for. And for me, the absolute touchstone for that is the game Feng Shui, which I pronounce that way deliberately to differentiate the game from the Wu practice of Qi flow through your house. More elephants. I understand Banjo's point, but I also think microgames with tightly focused rules of a particular genre or style can be hugely effective in a way that generic systems cannot be. Sure, you get bonuses for familiarity and so on with a system that you've played a lot, but I still think the best games marry setting and system. We talked about the Crown Royal bags already. There was some mention of Mad Dog by various people. So the reason us guys in Europe don't think of grape as the default Mad Dog flavour is that grape isn't really a flavour over here. Ironically, because in the case of Mad Dog, because it's flavoured wine, ironically because we didn't have prohibition, so we didn't have a whole bunch of people trying to find new uses for all these grapes they had, right? Or places they could grow grapes. Certainly the flavours that I usually saw were the kiwi, was it kiwi and lime or kiwi and lemon or kiwi and apple? I forget, but it definitely had kiwi fruit in it. So that lurid green one and the strawberry, those were the ones that people tended to buy and drink over here. So when I think of Mad Dog, I think of bright green or bright red or bright blue. Captain Machines said, when I first started in the late 90s and early 2000s, we used tobacco tins as they could be found easily and often had dragons and the like on their lids. Well, those were weed tins in which people kept their loose tobacco, their lighters, and their rolling machines, if they had them. You kids today are spoiled with your buds. They used to have to get smuggled in hard-pressed weed resin, often. And despite the best efforts of the smugglers, you could sometimes still smell the diesel or whatever else they'd been hidden in on it. Not that I was ever a great partaker, but I knew a great many, still know a great many potheads. On the pastel mush, Dracio talked about that and wondered and speculated whether the problem was that certain art programs and so on channel people towards that sort of style. I think it's overworking. I think the digital is so easy to correct and change that overbearing art directors, art by committee, and the fact that you can change things, I think that's what leads to the mushy look. I think the colour style and so on is just, that's the fashion, right? Same as CalArts infected animation and shitted it up proper. I think this look is an issue. However, weirdly, AI might help here, because without very definitive and good prompts, AI art tends to come out looking mushy, and so it becomes more easy to mistake AI art for mush art and vice versa. So maybe, hopefully, perhaps we'll see a move away from the mush towards more definitive and vibrant art. I can only hope so. I much prefer a more graphical look. On my UK politics video, Joshua Edwards asked, would ranked choice voting solve many of the issues? Yeah, but no. See, the problem is we had a referendum back when the Lib Dems were in coalition with the Conservative Party for single transferable vote, which is a form of ranked choice voting. And it failed horribly. Why? Well, because people who want proportional representation and not anything else, which is too much of a compromise, and people who don't want proportional representation are not going to vote for any sort of change. So it doesn't really fix it. There was a bunch of racist nonsense as well. Autistically Accurate asked if I would have a debate with Carl Benjamin or Sargon of Akkad. I would have back in the pre-UKIP days. These days I don't think there's much point. I think he's entirely audience captured, and I think the only point of doing such a thing would be to try and reach his audience. However, I am happy to fisk any of his videos that you think sort of lay out his stall well, and give my opinion, and so on. On the potato response video, which obviously is still getting quite a lot of play at the moment, Guna said something. It's hard to make out exactly what he wrote, but I think he means, looking back at COVID now, was it still a good idea to part company with Pundit and Venger over the issue? Yes. When people basically express that my health and well-being is not worth anything to them, I take that as a bit of a personal insult. More power to them to keep going, and I think Ryan David is a better fit. But please don't mistake the fact that people put less effort into debunking you and countering your nonsense about COVID. Don't mistake that for you being right. Vaccines and lockdowns saved millions upon millions of people. Nearly 6 billion people worldwide have been vaccinated at least once at this point, and any side effects of any vaccine really are exceedingly rare. So I was right, and I will continue to be right, just as I was about Brexit. On a little community post I did with some weird sort of outtakes of thumbnails I was trying to make, Peter Dickinson asked, do you not feel a bit weird making thumbnails of a perfected version of yourself? I never saw it that way. It's me taking the piss out of myself by presenting images of, I guess, an idealized form of myself. But yeah, I never really saw it that way, and I'm often using photos of myself as part of the prompt for AI to produce these engaging thumbnails, and I try to do something more interesting with it than the sort of open mouth pointing shots that a lot of people have. So hopefully they're entertaining and engaging, but they're not meant to be self-aggrandizing or anything, and rather I'm kind of mocking myself a bit. But I will tweak it to try and get a greyer beard and a bit more of a dad bod in future. sang.
Die Kaiju Die is a game about beating up monsters in giant mecha. The players take the part of mecha pilots and their support crew, using the fate system to allow the one to influence the other. They will fight giant monsters and walk in their shadow. They will establish rivalries and defeat villains. They will uncover conspiracies and lead the fight back against what seems to be a world itself in rebellion against humanity. Mostly, though, they'll smash giant monsters to pieces in epic, destructive fights. Available from post-mort.com, lulu.com, and drive-thru RPG.